Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the daily Bible study on the Elizabeth, Sharon, Ann Facebook page. I'm Michelle, and I'm filling in for Elizabeth today, Saturday, December 8th, 2021. And we're excited today about the Dream Big Warriors event. The Elizabeth, Inman, and the Dream Big team are hosting. And we just pray for everyone there that God would just richly bless each one. Okay, we're going to get started on today's Bible reading. And let's hear. And we start out in Habakkuk. We're going to be reading the book of Habakkuk today. Hope I pronounced that right. And it's a dialogue between the prophet Habakkuk and God. And Habakkuk was perplexed that wickedness, strife, and oppression were rampant in Judah, but God seemingly did nothing. When told the Lord was preparing to do something about it through the ruthless Babylonians, his perplexity only intensified. How could God, who is too pure to look on evil, appoint such a nation to execute judgment on a people more righteous than themselves? God makes it clear, however, that eventually the corrupt destroyer will itself be destroyed. In the end, Habakkuk learns to rest in God's sovereign appointments and his working spirit of worship. He learns to patiently wait in faith. That's what we all have to do, patiently wait in faith, because sometimes the things that we go through, the trials we face just seem too great, but we just keep waiting on God, and he'll move his mighty hand because he's faithful, and he said he would, and he does not lie. Okay, Habakkuk says, wherever I look, I am surrounded by love to argue and fight. That's in verse 3. Sounds a little familiar for today, huh? The world we live in is just full of people that love to argue and fight. And he goes on and talks about, he's in this first chapter, Habakkuk's first complaint was, why does the evil in Judah go unpunished? And God's answer was, the Babylonians will punish Judah. And then Habakkuk's second complaint was, how can a just God use wicked Babylonia to punish people more righteous than themselves? In verses 12 and then 2 and 1. And God's answer, Babylonia will be punished and faith will be rewarded. Habakkuk's prayer. After asking the measures of God's wrath and mercy, he closes with a confession of trust and joy in God. And during this chapter, he talks about in verse 12 of chapter 1, O Lord my God, my Holy One, you who are eternal. O Lord, our rock, you have sent these Babylonians to correct us, to punish us for our many sins. But you are pure and cannot stand the sight of evil. And that is the description of God. He's pure. He's perfect in all of his ways, as we know. And I love the beautiful prayer in Habakkuk 3, chapter 3. And I would have loved to have heard him sing it. I would have loved to hear the melody. I have heard, beginning in verse 2, I have heard all about you, Lord. I am filled with awe by your amazing works. In this time of our deep need, help us again as you did in years gone by. and in your anger, remember your mercy. And then he goes on, the Holy One, he talks about God, and I underlined some scriptures that I really feel like highlight God's true character and his attributes. The Holy One, his brilliant splendor fills the heavens, and the earth is filled with his praise. His coming is as brilliant as the sunrise. Rays of light flash from his. I love that. Oh, power. Where his awesome power is hidden. And in verse 6, when he stops the earthquakes, when he looks, the nations tremble. He is the eternal one. And on down to verse 10, the mountains watched, onward swept the raging waters. I love how the Bible, it's just so poetic. I love the way God words things. The mighty deep cried out, lifting its hands to the Lord. The sun and moon stood still in the sky. As your brilliant arrows flew and your glittering spear flashed. Beautiful. And then we go on down to verse 17. And I've heard this before, and I've heard this part sang. There's a song that sings these verses. Even though the fig trees have no blossoms, and there are no grapes on the vines, even though the olive crop fails, and the fields lie empty and barren, even though the flocks die in the fields, and the cattle barns are empty, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in the God of my salvation. The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes me as sure-footed as the deer, able to tread upon the heights. And I love that. I mean, it talks about, we can go through situations that look so dire, so bleak, but we just have to keep looking to God because he's faithful and he's our source of everything that we have need of, always. Okay. Now we're going to go on to Revelation. Chapter 9. Okay, the judgment begins like the first four did in Revelation, with a trumpet sounding. Now the fifth warning unfolds, and a star falls to the earth. And the nations, and the actions of this star makes it clear it is a person, a fallen angel, referred to as him. And this chapter talks about hell is going to break loose on the earth. And okay, we'll read verse 1 through 5. Then the fifth angel blew his trumpet, and I, John, saw a star that had fallen to the earth from the sky, and he was given the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit. Smoke poured out as though from a huge furnace, and the sunlight and air turned dark from the smoke. So that smoke indicates pollution. Then the locusts came from the smoke and descended on the earth, and they were given power to sting like scorpions. They were told not to harm the grass or plants or trees, but only the people who did not have the seal of God on their foreheads. They were told not to kill them, but to torture them for 5 months with pain like the pain of a scorpion sting. In those days, people will seek death, but will not find it. They will long to die, but death will flee from them. That would be a horrible place to be in. And the demon locust will inflict painful stings for a total of months. John says the torment will be like that of a scorpion sting, and scorpion stings are notoriously painful. Some of the toxins in scorpion venom are so toxic, they are used for chemotherapy to kill cancer cells. And the option to die by any means is removed by God during these 5 months. So men will want to die. They will be so miserable in this horrible pain, can't get away from these demon locusts, but they won't be able to. And again, it's just going to be terrible during that time. Okay, we're going to read verses 7 through 11. The locusts looked like horses prepared for battle. They had what looked like gold crowns on their heads, and looked like human faces. They had hair like women's hair, and teeth like the teeth of a lion. They wore armor made of iron, and their wings roared like an army of chariots rushing into battle. They had tails that stung like scorpions, and for 5 months, they had the power to torment people. Their king is an angel from the bottomless pit. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek, Apollyon, the destroyer. John says they look like horses prepared for battle, with heads like men, hair like women, and teeth like lions. It's really hard to imagine that, but I know it would be a very terrifying sight. They wear crowns indicating they have authority in the demonic realm. They have wings that make a great noise, and they have tails like scorpions with the power to hurt men, as we read, except for the men who have the seal of God on their foreheads. And their king is clearly the destroyer. Okay, we're going to read 13 through 19. And the 6th angel blew his trumpet, and I heard a voice speaking from the 4 horns of the gold altar that stands in the presence of God. And the voice said to the 6th angel who the trumpet, release the 4 angels who are bound at the great Euphrates River. Then the 4 angels who had been prepared for this hour and day and month and year were turned loose to kill 1/3 of all the people on earth. The size of their army was 200 million troops. And then we're going to go on to read verses 19 and 20. Oh, okay, I missed a few here. Okay, and in my vision, I saw the horse and the riders sitting on them. The riders wore armor that was fiery red and dark blue and yellow. The horses had heads like lions, and fire and smoke and burning sulfur billowed from their mouths. 1/3 of all the population on earth were killed by these 3 plagues, by the fire and smoke and burning sulfur that came from the mouths of the horses. Their power was in their mouths and in their tails, and for their tails had tails like snakes, and with the power to injure people. And then we read in verses 20 and 21, the state of the people alive in that day. But the people who did not die in these plagues still used to repent of their evil deeds and turn to God. They continued to worship demons and idols, and they did not repent of their murders or witchcraft or their sexual immorality or their thefts. And so idolatry and crime and perversion will be rampant during that time. Have no regard for life or property. And we're going to go on to Psalm 137. And the Jews imitated the flowing stream by which they sat and swelled it with their tears as they wept for their sins. And this is a psalm of mourning. It starts out in verse 1. Beside the rivers of Babylon, we sat and wept as we thought of Jerusalem. We put away our harps, hanging them on the branches of the poplar trees. For our captors demanded a song from us. Our tormentors insisted on a joyful hymn. Sing one of those songs of Jerusalem, but how to sing the songs of the Lord while in a pagan land. So they were very sorrowful. They were in captivity and they were just pouring their hearts out to God. Oh Lord, remember what you did on the day that armies of Babylon captured Jerusalem. Destroy it, they yelled. Level it to the ground. Oh Babylon, you will be destroyed. And we're going to read the wisdom nugget, Proverbs today. Proverbs 30:10. Never slander a worker to the employer, or the person will curse you and you will pay for it. And so I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And this Christmas season, let the light of Jesus flood your life and look for God's presence everywhere, because he is everywhere. He's always doing things for us. He's always looking out for us. He loves us all dearly, and he wants the best for us. And we just have to keep our eyes upon Jesus and just keep believing in his word, get into his word, pray, spend time with him. That is what we all need to do to grow in him. And he will bless our lives and he'll give us strength to endure the things that we go through in this life. I hope you all have a great weekend, and bless you.